Michael Gelkin,
Michael.
Dallas Morning News. Luke Gifford, that was an active game from him. I guess I want to open it up to what were your greatest impressions of his game?
Yeah, it was probably like nothing I've seen before. I mean, 5 legitimate tackles in one game on special teams. I haven't ever been a part of a game where one guy had that many tackles. And he had a fumble recovery, too. So he was very productive. He actually missed one on punt at the end of the game that could have been 6. So just really proud of him. You know, he said this morning, kind of when it rains, it pours. But part of that, too, is we had 14 balls in play on the 4 phases, which is, 5 on kickoff. And I think we had 3 on kick return. And every punt was live ball, and a couple of our punt returns were live ball. So great opportunities, and he was fantastic. He was really fantastic.
You guys have that aggregate in-house scoring system for special teams, individual performance. Yep. How did he shoot up on that? I don't know if you've done the math on it yet, but what does a game like that do to you guys' internal standings?
Yeah, we're doing the math on it right now, and it shot him up the chart. We haven't added the math, but it might be a 100-point game, which for the season, the benchmark is 500 points. So, I mean, you steal 100 points in one game, that's a lot. So bonus points for tackles, fumble recoveries, forced fumbles like CJ had. So proud of him because he's been under the radar playing really good football. Maybe the stat sheet doesn't show it, also his leadership. So I think the best is yet to come for him, but that was a good, productive day for Luke.
In pregame, I guess in overtime, obviously Mike goes for it. But in pregame, going in that direction, how difficult was it just to get a kick there?
In pregame?
Yeah.
It actually switched. So in pregame, we had the wind at our back going away from our tunnel, which is kind of one of the reasons why we took the ball when we won the coin toss, because we wanted to be able to choose the second half wind. And so when it switched, we were like, okay, I'm glad we switched because now we get to choose the second half wind. And it was a big factor. I mean, every kickoff we hit going that way, they cut the ball at 5-ish yard line every time. So I know the questions in overtime is why not kick the field goal from the 35-yard line, and there's, I think, a lot of good answers we can give why we went for it, which I'm sure Coach handled, and we're all 100% behind it for sure. But it was a factor for sure, yeah.
And when you saw the missed kick earlier, did you know he looked like he kicked it where he's supposed to, just went to the right?
Yeah, I think Mason you're talking about hit a good ball, and it kind of sliced out there, but there was a wind play going that way, and you kind of had to be on the field to feel it, but it was maybe 5 to 7 yard difference going that way on a field goal compared to the other way, which is why Green Bay took the wind in overtime going that way. I mean, that was a no-brainer.
Christy Scales, Cowboys Radio.
Christy.
Mukwamo took over for Joseph at Gunner. I assume that was with Joseph playing for AB. And how does that affect how you're going to work it this week if Anthony is still in concussion?
Great observation. Izzy did take over the gunner reps and a few others, and I'll kick off too because Kelvin is a huge part of our special teams. And so when we had to take Kelvin off special teams because of AB's injury, it was all hands on deck. But Izzy did a really good job and hasn't taken any gunner reps in practice or games this year. But we felt he was the next best guy because Deron Bland was playing some defense and Jalen Tolbert is still coming along with that. So he did it, the forced fumble, I mean, he showed up with Gift and CJ and was a huge factor on that play. So really proud of Mukwamo and his ascension over the last year and a half, becoming a contributor on special teams. But moving forward, we'll just kind of see what happens. If Anthony Brown is up, then maybe it goes back to how it was. If he's not, Izzy's in play, and Nashawn Wright, who we have on deck, is in play. So kind of the last couple of weeks, it felt like the message to all our special teams guys is, hey, guys, whether you're practice squad, inactive, or active, everybody's got to be ready to play. And on our Wednesday, Thursday scouting reports, there's multiple numbers at multiple spots, just so everybody knows, like, hey, I might be here, I'm buddy system with that guy. So I'm talking too much, but there's a lot in play when one guy like Anthony Brown gets hurt. It trickles down, and then it shuffles a huge deck on special teams in the game. So the more versatile our players can be, the better off we are.
You guys,
Babe, thank you.
I'm sorry, sir. Go ahead.
Craig Lothberg, Cowboys Radio. So I think you guys have only had a couple of returns on kickoff.
Yep.
And you keep telling your guys, hey, the time's going to come, the time's going to come.
Yeah.
And then the time doesn't come, and
Yep.
obviously the time came yesterday. So I guess a two-part. One, coverage appeared pretty good. And then number two, is it good just to get stuff on film where you have live action tackling? Tackling, excuse me.
Yeah, I think the biggest part is for our guys to just get, I hate to refer to game reps as practice, but we need all the live ball reps we can get. I mean, we had, Hendershot and Sam Williams and Deron Bland, Malik Davis, Quadri Allison jumped out there. Izzy had to move to a spot. So it was a lot of great football for our guys in a great National Football League real game to get some good reps. And we knew we were going to have to cover them all kick in that direction. So it's not like all of a sudden we got hyped because we knew it. I think the guys were always ready. But to get some live ball reps, I think we did a good job. There's a few things with some good tape we can actually now correct. Like, okay, when this happens, you got to hold this edge. You got to use your hands. Don't pick a side. I mean, there's a lot of cool things on kickoff to look at. I know from a fan it looks like a whole bunch of bodies just Braveheart, and there's no method to the madness, but there's a lot of skill involved with covering kickoffs and a huge amount of skill in blocking on kickoff returns. So it was good meeting this morning to see some good game.
And there's the thing, you got to know it. You got to know you know it. So was that probably a good example of guys thinking, okay, I know this, and now all of a sudden the live action starts?
Yeah, like Damone Clark, it's his first time really covering a kickoff. And, he's going against a couple of veteran guys, and there's a thing called a look-off block where a guy looks at Damone to make Damone think, I got him, but then he turns and blocks this guy, and you kind of stop your feet, and it's like, whoa, what, So there's a lot of game within a game that veteran guys learn how to block and how to attack blockers. And it was great for Damone to he came off the sideline. I was like, Coach, I thought he was blocking me, then he blocked me, but then the ball went that way, and yeah. That's how it is, man. So the more reps we can get at that is good for us. And man, damn, I wish we won the game. But good practice for us.
Kayla.
Haley Sutton, DallasCowboys.com. Along those same lines, every week when Cavante Turpin is back, whether it's a punt or a kickoff, I don't think I've ever experienced a player with that sort of anticipation of what he's going to do. Do you feel that same anticipation, and have you ever had a player as electric when it comes to returning kicks like that?
Yeah, I do feel that with Terp. Have I ever had one? I don't want to pick, but he's up there, if not at the very top. And you do feel on the first one he kind of squirted out, and the best thing we could do is just kind of gobble some cover guys up and don't commit penalties. Later in the game, there was one where it's like, you got to get to that ball that bounced in play and then went into the end zone. So there's still decision-making things that we got to keep working on. Let's face it, he's a rookie, and he's exciting as can be. I think he's a great ball catcher. But even with the win now, we got some second half of the season to work on. What do we do with that kick? If I catch it, got to catch it and play. Do we make it a touchback? So there's just a lot of cool stuff that he can still learn from. But with the ball in his hands, he's outstanding. And he's really fun to block for, our guys say.
John, the on-field logistics of that, where the kickoff and it hits in the end zone, is the official in the end zone supposed to blow it dead right then when it first touches in the end zone?
Yes. Okay. Yep, so as soon as it touches the goal line or in the end zone, it's automatically done, as long as it hasn't been touched by a player yet. And I think it blew a late whistle, which is why he got on it and kind of panicked. Immediately it should be blown dead and the play is over. So he doesn't have to go field it, but
I didn't hear a whistle. I didn't know if
it came very late, which is why you see him go panic and picked it up and started running. They got to blow the whistle on that. But we got to catch that ball, but it should be blown dead immediately. Yep.
Okay.
No.
Michael, then Calvin.
Yeah.
The 5 kickoff returns, is that all predicated just based on the weather and the conditions, or was any of that directional strategy?
For our kickoffs?
Yeah.
Brett was kicking it. We just had Brett swing with. There was no put it in play, bloop it. Those were all his full swing kicks. So the strategy was just kick it and let's go cover it, knowing that it's going to come short and be a ball in play. So it was no different than a home game. Just kick it in that direction. The wind was knocking it down. The ball was colder. So this is the time of year where the touchback percentage goes down. We talked about that, and that's what's happening. Colder balls, a little bit more tired legs. We get some live ball work.
back to Turpin on that kickoff. Did the wind kind of take that ball a little bit away? Maybe that's what threw him off?
It did, absolutely, yeah, because it came out pretty hot. The kicker slipped, came out hot and right, and kind of a squirrely ball, and the wind knocked it down. That's why, from his perspective, he called it off pretty quick because it looked like it was coming touchback, and then boom, it got knocked down right about the 2-yard line. Thank goodness it rolled into play. But our coaching point was, don't assume it's going into the end zone, especially outdoors into the wind. Get over there, catch that ball, and let's run the return. But easier said than done, I got the clicker in my hand, Terp, and I can slow-mo it and make it all nice. And you're out there, and it's, there's lights, and there's wind, and there's 11 bodies that are angry. And so I respect very much the decision-making of the players, and I don't try to I got to coach them, but not over-coach them, and respect what they see out there a lot.
Is this the longest that you've gone at the beginning of the season without a fake of any kind? And this time spent in the lab perfecting, if you will, what you do have? Like, what's this been like for you?
Yeah, it's been, we've called 2, actually. We have the ability to kill him. So just because we haven't run one doesn't mean we haven't called one. So, yeah, plus, we had, no out for a couple games, and so when you switch PPs and you're always switching wings, there's learning adjustments, so maybe you kind of ratchet it back down just a little bit. But now that I think we've kind of found a punt team and hopefully a kickoff team, then some of those things can come back to life. And I think you'll see them for sure do that. And a lot of it has to do with the look. I think in the past, sometimes we've called fakes and there's no way out and we're running it no matter what. And you get teams that play a little bit safer and it's like, oh, damn, So we have mechanisms in place that can kill a fake if it's just not a good look. And Noah is outstanding on recognizing it. And sometimes you call a fake and the punt team's like, okay, we can kill it, but hey, guys, we ain't killing this, But he has a good wise sense about him. If it's not there, let's kill it and let's save it for another time. And so there's a lot of season left. Last year, we didn't run to the playoff game. So we're not worried about that. Just playing good, sound football with our young guys. And when those opportunities come, we'll have some, I'm sure.
And then the in-house scoring system aforementioned, what's the background in terms of how you developed it or where you saw it, or what's the background there?
I got it back when I was an assistant with the Baltimore Ravens in 2006. I worked for Frank Gans Jr., who was the coordinator, and his dad, Frank Gans Sr., arguably the most legendary special teams coach in the National Football League, kind of got it from him. And we've obviously changed it over the course of all the years with, how do you score points, how much this production is worth, a tackle is worth this many points, a forced fumble is worth this many points, a block punt's worth this many points. Just doing your job is worth this many points. So it has to do with 2 things, participation and production. And 500 points is the goal for the end of the season. And usually we have about 6, on average, about 6 players that'll hit 500 points per year.
Winner gets anything?
Yep. A lot of love and a lot of cool other something. Yeah.
Alrighty. No salary cap ramifications?
Absolutely not. No. Maybe
All right,
a big
thank
old
you,
dinner at the house or something.